Hi, and thanks for joining us again. Today we're going to look at something a little less technical, although very important. I'm sure with security being the big thing at the moment, with GDPR coming along, people are asking you to change passwords and make them more complex. So how do you have a complex passwords but get them so you can still remember them? There are a number of things you can do, and this is just a guide to take you through some of the things you could do, which will make a very complex password, but you don't have to apply all of them. You can pick stuff that suits you, mix and match, so long as you understand why complex passwords are what they are. What we're trying to do is make sure that people don't easily guess your password. So we're going to go through this step by step, and hopefully by the end of it you'll have some good steps. Don't feel free to pause this at any stage and just look at the slides individually, because I'm going to skip through it at some stage. I'll give you some time to look at each slide, but realistically you may need to pause it and go through it again. Okay, so first one is, what is secure? What do people mean by secure? The first thing is you want to make sure that they're not easy to guess or discover. You want to make sure that you don't have the same passwords across lots of different logins. And one of the big things is they're not written down and easily accessible, because you can have a really complex password. If you write it down, it's no longer complex. Okay, so what's not secure? Because that's probably an easy one to deal with. Short passwords. In this example I've got cat, dog, 3, 4, 5 letter words. They're just so easy to guess and get. A sequence of numbers, the number of people you'll find that's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The name of your child, dog or partner. People that know you are going to be able to guess that. Again, same with your phone number or your postcode or house number. If they're in your password, they're likely to be someone that knows you would be able to guess those reasonably easily. It might not be that they can get it all the time, but you want to make it as complex as possible. Don't have the word password in your password. It might seem obvious, but obvious isn't good when you come to passwords. And any simple word is very difficult to protect against being hacked. If it's an online system, the likelihood is that somebody can use what's called a dictionary attack, where they just try lots of passwords that's in the dictionary, just standard words that's in the dictionary, should I say, for your password, and that's going to mean that your password's going to be easily to hack. So don't use those. So what can you do to make it secure? Well, you can use a mixture of the following: uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, symbols, and make them 8 characters or more. Now I'm sure you've seen those on numerous websites of the rules that you've got to apply to your password, how you can't have the password that you wanted because it has to have some of these rules in. The reason these rules are there is because it makes it complex. So they are good, but they also make it very difficult to remember. So once we apply those, we're going to have a complex password. Okay, we've got a secure password now, but we want to make sure that we can remember it still. So how do we do that? And that's realistically what this presentation is about. It's about trying to show you how you can make it useful, in terms of some useful steps in terms of making it memorable. So what do you do now? Well, first is don't write things down. Secondly is don't make it so complex that you can't remember it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through and give you some steps that you can use to make it so you can remember it. As I say, a password that's written down is no better than an insecure password, so don't write your passwords down and leave them lying around. Everything you do then is a waste of time. So you've got some rules that you need to apply: uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, length of password, but you're not allowed to write them down. So how we're going to do this? Well, everyone will tell you to make your passwords unique. Now that is nigh impossible. You've got so many passwords for different systems that making them unique is going to be very, very difficult. So what you can do is you can make the rules that you apply to your passwords common, and therefore it makes it easy to remember what those passwords are. Now what I'm suggesting here is that you could choose a phrase, a quote or a sentence that is related to the site you're logging into. Now the site could be work, it could be a website that you're using. So in this example we're logging into a shoes website, so the phrase that we're going to use is related to shoes and footwear and walking, and in the phrase is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Now you can use that as your password, but in the simple form it is maybe too long for some systems. That's the first thing. So what you could do is if you've got a phrase like that, you could just use the first letter of each word as the basis for your password, and that's what we're going to do here. So that phrase becomes just the letters O, S, S, F, M, O, G, L, F, M, and that is very difficult to say when you're doing a presentation. So now we're going to apply some complexity rules to it, and you'll see that the rules are quite simple. They're going to be difficult to remember at the start maybe, but we'll deal with that as well. So the first thing you can do is you could change a letter of the alphabet in your phrase and change it for a number. Now you could change an O to a 0, which is obvious, or you can choose an I to a 1, which is again obvious. So let's not be obvious, because obvious isn't good in complex passwords. So in this example I'm going to say let's take the letter F, and F is the 6th letter of the alphabet, so let's swap F for 6 all the time. Okay, and then your password has OSS 6M OGL 6M. Again, we'll deal with how that is nigh impossible to remember, but let's deal with the rules for the password first. The second step that we're going to suggest you apply is to make a mixture of uppercase and lowercase. Now you could start with just a capital letter and make the rest lowercase, but again, that's what everyone does normally. That's what you do in everyday life when you're writing. So let's not do that for passwords. Now you could just choose a random letter and make that letter onwards uppercase, but what I'm suggesting here is that you've used the letter F and made it number 6, so why not say the 6th letter onwards is what we're going to capitalize. And as you can see, we've got a password there with a mixture of uppercase and lowercase letters. Now the last step that I'm suggesting you can do is to add symbols into your password, but as I say here, be careful, because if you don't see the password, which is the same on lots of systems, you don't actually see what you're typing. If it's not a computer that you've set up or you've used all the time, you may find that it has a bad keyboard layout. You know, it's been set up to US. You could be on holiday, for instance, and trying to use theirs, and then you need to be aware that the layouts of keyboards aren't the same across different places, and if they've not been set up correctly, then by default they're normally set to US. So yours was probably a UK keyboard. Hopefully it's set up properly, so when you type certain characters on the keyboard they appear as they should, but some may not, so bear that in mind. So if it was a US keyboard, you'll notice that the quotes mark, the double quotes mark, will come out as a @ sign. So if you're not seeing the password, you may find out it's neglecting your password, rejecting it, and saying that you can't log in, and it's because the layouts of the keys are different. So bear that one in mind. So what you can do with adding characters into your password is add them at the beginning, at the end, or in the middle. You could, for instance, put them before the 6th character, just before you change the case of the keys. You could put a symbol in there, or you can change a certain character for a certain symbol. So you could change the letter S for a $sign, but again, that's obvious because it's the one that most people would use. So why not try something like that's not as obvious and change the letter S to an ampersand. You could change it to any symbol, and you just got to remember that that's the one that you use and that's the one that you choose to use, and so long as you don't tell anyone else it, they don't know. And then for your password, now has uppercase, lowercase and symbols in there, and it's longer than 8 characters. So we now have a complex password. And what we've done just going through that again, is we've picked a phrase. As the phrase is quite long, we've used just the first letters of the phrase. We'll then swap letters for numbers. We've capitalised part of the word, and then we've swapped certain characters for a symbol. So these are just the 3 steps that we've chosen. But realistically, you're not going to remember lowercase o, ampersand, ampersand, 6, lowercase m, uppercase O, uppercase G, uppercase L, 6, uppercase M. It's complex for me to say, let alone for you to remember. So how are you going to remember it? Now we've got a very complex password. Well, you're not remembering that password. Initially, you are going to probably have to think about that password, and that's not a bad thing. But it will become second nature. You'll be typing it without thinking after a while. You'll be surprised how quickly you get into the habit of typing very strange combinations of characters. So what you need to do is to remember the steps. Remember, it's a phrase to do with where you're logging in, that you choose to always swap F for the number 6, that you're always going to capitalise the 6th character onwards, and that you're always going to swap S for ampersand. And more importantly, you're never going to write down the password. But if you have to make a note of it, just so you can remember what your rules are, why not write down something like shoes, 6 ampersand, and then that gives you a clue to, for your shoes site, it's the phrase to do with shoes. You're always going to use the 6th character for uppercase onwards, and you're going to swap 6 where F was, and then you're going to use ampersand for a character, and you always know it's S, so it's going to trigger your memory in terms of what you did and why you did it. Now you can add all those rules in. You can just do some of them. So for instance, you could just use a couple of words and then apply the uppercase, lowercase number rules and symbols to that if you wish. This is producing a very complex password, and it's applying all the rules to make that, but you can use a combination to suit you. What's more important is you end up with a complex password that's not written down and that you can remember. So all you got to do now is give it a go. So next time you get a chance to change your password, why not create a version of your password, or why not create one now and choose some. You have to go through some ideas of what you could use for passwords for different sites, and see if you can come up with some ideas for complex passwords. Okay, I hope that's some use. Feel free to go back through the video as you choose, and if you've got any questions, by all means feel free to make comments. Subscribe to our channel, and I hope you found that useful. Thank you.